My name is Odysseus. We drank the nights away!
So the vision for the play was to take a classic story and bring it bang up to date, to look at a soldier's return home and look at what that means. We did a lot of research into the world of post-traumatic stress syndrome, and we used a book called Odyssey in America by Dr. Jonathan Shea, which really looks at the steps soldiers go through to recover from the horrors that they've seen in order to reintegrate back into society.
Adapting the Odyssey, well, it wasn't straightforward, to be honest, because the form of it is an epic. It's written to be told over a long period of time. It also has stories within stories and flashbacks, and none of those things are easy to do on a stage, because you've got a single space, you've got real time, you've got a limited number of people who have to play all the characters. In fact, in this case, it's 8, and that nowadays is a big cast.
This wine is a precious vintage, the best. I bring it in hope that you will take pity on me and help me find my home.
I've got to say, basically, I got told about the job, okay, obviously very excited, as we always are, and I thought to myself, everyone knows about Odysseus. What do I not know about him? So I went back to Homer's Odyssey, which is always a good thing to do, and read that. Some people say it's long, oh my God, I hate to say this word, some people might say it's not modern enough for them. But in reality, I think it is very modern, actually. The ideas are modern. You know, maybe the way it's expressed is not modern, you know, Homeric verse or whatever, but in actuality, the themes are as modern now as they ever were.
We brought together a great creative team. The designer, Barney George, has created a space that gives us lots of space for the actors. There's 8 actors, it's very physical, and it's a storytelling piece. So I wanted a set that could transform quite easily and that the actors make the story happen. With the music, it was very much about creating quite a simple palette, but one that the actors have complete control over. So although sometimes there's beds of sound that sit under them, quite often there's vocalizations over that's live, and there's live violin and live percussion. So everything within the process, the actors are in control of. It's their story to tell.
I did have to lose a lot, inevitably, and the process of that is like I imagine having your legs waxed, you know. So the early bit is pain, then you start enjoying yourself. What I've done with it, it takes place over 10 years, the travel home, but most of the first half of the play is that 10 years. When he gets home, which is the second half of the play, there's none of that magic stuff. There's no cyclops, there's no giants. It's just a man arrives home, his wife and son are there, and they're being besieged, because she's a rich widow, by about 100 young princes who want to marry her. And that's the situation he has to sort out. It's very domestic. So I kind of split it into 2 halves. The first half is a men's half. It's the soldiers coming home. And the second half is the women's half. It's what happens when the soldiers arrive home.
What I want from this Odysseus is, and I think Sarah as well, and Michael as well, is we don't want just a hero. We don't just want a cartoon god-like man who, I don't know, slays all beasts and, you know, and slays all women or anything like that. What we want is someone who you can identify with, someone who you can actually go on his journey with at the same time. And that's something that I'm very, very, very keen about.
It'd be really easy to do this play as just a big fantastical fairy tale, and we put in all the spectacle of the Cyclops and the caves and all of that, but there has to be an emotional core that drives through, and there has to be ultimately theatre's about what have you got to say to the world. And so we spent a lot of time both with the writer and with myself looking at kind of my vision of it, is with this piece of theatre, what am I trying to say to the world, and how does each and every character serve that purpose really and drive that story or that message or, you know, that spine all the way through the play.
The essential thing to remember is trying to find, everyone has a driver, everyone has a reason why they do things. And whether those things are out of context to the wider audience or not, they have a reason. And Odysseus has his reasons why he may, for example, kill all the maidens at the end. In our world, that is a horrible atrocity, actually. In his world, it's almost like a righting of the balance.
So with this piece, it's been a real two-pronged approach. On the one hand, it's a real physical ensemble piece. So there's been a lot of ensemble work, a lot of ensemble exercises. How do the company come together, breathe together, move together as a battalion of men, but also as this group of soldiers who tell this story. But then on the second side of that, there's also actually, these are really fully formed characters. They are a wife, a mother, a son. So actually, how do those characters find within their emotional core what these events mean to them? When you haven't seen your husband for 20 years, what does that mean? So we've used a lot of Stanislavski-based techniques. We've looked very specifically at actioning and how we might action the text. We've looked at our super objectives and what's driving us all the way through. And then we've tried to tie those two together. So when you see Emma Beattie, for instance, the actress who plays Penelope, as a soldier in Act 1, actually there are seeds already within that soldier of Penelope, who she becomes in Act 2. And what's the overarching arc from Act 1 to Act 2? Otherwise, it becomes Odysseus' story and everyone else is just multiplayer.